Hey, hello. Welcome to Unite Now. Today, we're going to talk about version control for video games using plastic SCM. My name is Arturo. I'm a developer advocate at Unity, and feel free to reach out to me on Twitter if you have any question about this or any other Unity related topic. That's my handle there. And let's begin. Video games are complex pieces of software that require thousands of files to work. Games are developed by teams that can go from one person to literally hundreds, all working together and sharing files that are usually large. Talking about teams, many people collaborate on the same project at the same time, and there is a need to have a centralized place with all the code, textures, materials, audio files, and more. There are, of course, more challenges, but for these ones, the solution is to use a robust, flexible version control system. These are the key takeaways for the presentation today. At the end, you will understand what version control systems are and why you should be using one. You will also get a basic understanding of plastic SCM's concepts and workflows, and you will be able to use plastic SCM as your version control system for your projects. So, what is a version control system? In a nutshell, a version control system is a tool that allows game developers, and here I mean everyone working on creating a game, can be an artist, can be a programmer, can be a producer, to manage the changes in their code and assets through time. Usually, this is backed up in a cloud server. So why would we use one? And there are various reasons, and the real question should be why not to use one? But if you're wondering if you should be using one, please ask yourself some of these questions. Do you need or do you face complex merges in code or projects? Do you need a backup of your project? Do you work on a team? And do you need continuous integration with a build system? So what are the options? Of course, there are many different source control systems out there. There's Git, Perforce, SVN, Mercurial, and Plastic. And these are just some of them. The important thing to evaluate when choosing one is that the version control service makes your workflows better and not the other way around. So ask yourself these questions. How easy it is for non-programmers to use? How flexible it is? How well does it manage large assets such as textures, videos, and models? At this point, you probably are thinking, okay, yeah, these are real problems. Now, tell me the solution. And the solution for those things is Plastic SCM. Plastic is a full version control stack designed for branching, merging, speed, visualization, and ease of use. It's also owned by Unity. So why should we use Plastic? There are many reasons, but we're going to focus on the main ones. So it's great for large projects and big files. If you're uploading like literally gigabytes of data and downloading that, Plastic is extremely fast. You can configure it the way you want, any way that fits your workflows. It also allows you speeds for uploading and downloading files that I haven't seen in any other version control system. There are plugins for integrations with Unity and the Unreal Engine. It's free to start. There are multiple subscriptions, but it's free to start. And it comes with a simplified workflow for artists called Gluon mode. And I'm going to talk about Gluon mode in just a second. So Gluon mode. Gluon mode is Plastic in a simplified workflow. So if you don't want to use all the features with Plastic that in some cases might be complex or too advanced for what you're trying to achieve, you can use a simplified workflow, which is Gluon. You can do things like deciding which files you want to work, make changes and submit them easily. It's great for handling large binaries, and you don't have to worry about large file systems or anything. You just add them to your repository and you're good to go. You can also lock files. Basically, if you want to work on a specific file and you don't want anyone else to modify it at the same time, you can lock it. And you can also pick up files easily. What does that mean? Well, if I'm an artist and I don't need the entire project in my machine taking disk space, then I can just say, okay, I want to work on this set of textures, and that's the assets that you will be downloading into your machine. We will see them in more detail in a second, but these are the features of Gluon mode. So before jumping into the actual usage of Plastic, let's map out some concepts. If you come from another version control system, there might be some words that are there and here have a different meaning. So that's why I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about these concepts. So starting with a check-in. Check-in is basically the action of sending the changes to our repository. A change set means that every time you check in something, you will be creating a change set. Think of this as a snapshot of your changes in time. An update. So when we talk about updating in the context of Plastic, we refer to downloading content to the local working copy. There's also the concept of branches. And a branch is basically a parallel version of your code. We can have as many branches as we want in Plastic, and that's actually encouraged. There is this pattern called a branch per task. So you can potentially have a new branch per task in your task management board. Each circle that you see here is a change set. And I mentioned the code, but can also be changes in your assets or basically anything in your repository. Plastic uses a main branch. This is the branch that always exists in a Plastic repository. You can, of course, rename it, but this will be the central timeline of your development. A repository is the place where all the versions, branches, merges, etc. are stored. Also, a workspace. A workspace is the directory where your project is downloaded to a local disk and you basically use it to work. So a workspace is basically the local copy that you will be modifying and then checking into the repository. Great. So this is the way Plastic sees a perfect workflow, right? You have your project, and then you have one task on your Trello or on your code blocks, etc. And then you decide to start working on that task. You create a branch, then you make all your modifications, you check in, you have the code review, then you merge and test that whatever you added is working, and then you deploy. This is an oversimplification, but this is usually good to know when you're working with Plastic and you're wondering like how you should be working. Of course, you can modify the workflow to whatever fits your production, but this is the way we encourage people to work. Perfect. So there are two modes of working with Plastic, and I promise this is the last piece of theory that I show you before jumping into the demo. So there are two layout modes in Plastic, and of course you can mix and match, but we mainly have a centralized layout and a distributed layout. So let's briefly discuss them. But the recommendation here is to keep it as simple as possible. If you can deal with one, that's perfect. If you can deal with the other one, that's perfect. If you want to mix them because there's something in your project that requires it, then that's fine. But my recommendation is to just keep it simple. So what is the centralized mode? Centralized basically means that you will directly be checking into a repository that is located in a central server. So you can see here that on the left, I have my machine, I have my workspace, and every time I make any change, I will check in that into the repository directly. Every time someone makes a change, I will update from the repository into my workspace. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. The other mode is distributed mode. You can see here that we still have our central repository on the right, but instead of me checking in directly into that repository, I have a local repository. So you see those arrows going from my workspace to this local repository. Well, I'm checking in and I'm updating into that repository. And once I'm okay, I will be pushing and pulling to and from the repository, the main repository, which can be in other location. It can be on-premise or it can be on the cloud. Perfect. So let's start. How do we start? You first need to get a Plastic account. Super simple. Just go to plasticscm.com, fill in your personal details. If you have a Unity account, which I think you all have, just you can register with that Unity account. Just add your email and your password, and that's pretty much it. Then you need to create an organization. You can have more than one organization, and you can belong to one or more organizations. And then just select the data center that is closest to you. You can force the encryption or not, and then you're good to go. That's all you need to do. Now, the next step is to actually get the Plastic client. For that, just go to the download section and find the edition that you need. In this case, we're going to use Cloud Edition. There is an installer and there is an executable for Windows, Mac, and Linux. You just need to follow the wizard, and then you will have Plastic SCM installed. Now, let's open Plastic. So as any other program, I just open Plastic SCM. In this case, I'll open the configuration wizard. I'm going to log in using the account that I just created. And you can see that I belong to several organizations. I want to join the one that I already. I'm going to launch Plastic in regular mode or developer mode, and I'm going to go with centralized mode. I already have a project repository in the cloud, so I'm going to that one. And you can see that I have some updates. So I just click the update. This is the Plastic client. It's already installed. I clicked update because now what I'm doing is, or what Plastic is doing, is updating my workspace with what is contained in the remote repository. It's pretty fast. Here I fast forwarded it, but in real time, I think it took me 3 or 4 minutes to download almost 1 gigabyte worth of the project. Of course, it depends on multiple things, but in summary, it's pretty fast. So we have our Workspace Explorer here. Remember, is what we are changing is our Unity project. In this case, we have pending changes, nothing out there. We have the Branch Explorer. You can see that this project already has a history. So you can see that we have 2 branches, the main and another one, and we have some change sets. An important thing there is that you see the house icon at the end of the main branch. Well, that means that's where we are located at. That's where our workspace is located at this point in time. Next, let's make something interesting. So let's say that we want to implement something in our project. So I'm going to start by creating a branch. In this case, the feature or the task that I want to implement is something related to a render feature in my project. So I'm going to create a render feature changes branch because I'm going to be modifying that. And you can see here that then the house icon or the home icon is in that other branch. So I go to my Unity project. I'm going to modify some things. I'm going to go to this data folder, to the universal render pipeline folder. And then I'm just going to modify my pipeline asset to use a custom renderer. You can see that I have this like old game style over there, and I'm going to modify what render features I want. I'm going to deactivate the RetroPass for the moment. I'm just going to leave the other ones. And you can see if I go to my pending changes window, I already have some pending changes. I'm going to check in my changes. So actually, I just modified 3 things, and I'm going to add a comment, and I'm going to check that in. Okay, so no more pending changes. That's great. If I go to the Branch Explorer, you can see that there's that change set. I'm going to activate the RetroPass now, and then there's another set of changes. I'm going to check in those changes as well. Back to the Branch Explorer, and you can see that our branch already has the 2 change sets that I need. I want to go back to the main branch, to the tip of the main branch. So I'm going to switch my workspace to that change set in the main branch. And then I want to merge. So I want to bring the changes that I just did into the main branch. So I right click on that, on the latest change set, and I say merge from this change set. You see that there are no conflicts, and these are the changes that happened. I apply the changes, and then you can see that we're back to the main branch and our changes are already there. So that's pretty much the process of modifying something in our project, and then, creating a branch. And then once our branch is done, means we say, okay, yeah, all the changes are good, we go back to the main branch and we merge those changes. This is a very, very simple workflow. You can have multiple branches and there are so many advanced workflows, but in this case, we're going to stick to the very basics. Now, let's imagine that someone else in my team made a modification to the project. You can see on the upper right corner that Plastic is telling me that there is one change set available and that I can update. That means someone else working on the same repository made some changes and then checked into the repository. So I need to grab those changes. So pretty simple. You can see here that I'm no longer at the tip. There are some changes in advance. I don't have pending changes, but I'm one change set behind. So I update. You see, there are no conflicts, but one thing that we can do is to see what's coming up in the incoming changes. So they just modified this script, and you can see that we have the div window. We have a semantic div as well with more powerful features. In this case, we just changed the order of, we just refactored our script. So everything looks good. Then we can update the workspace to bring those changes into our workspace. Again, this is a very simple example. Plastic comes with very advanced div and merging tools, but we're just sticking to the basics. Okay, so if I go to the change sets view or window, you can see here that the number 9 is the change set that I did for my retro effect, and then the number 10 is something that a collaborator of mine, well, in this case, it was also me, but you get the idea. Now, let's work on Gluon. So I'm opening Plastic. I'm also logging in, but instead of selecting, well, I'm going to select the same. Instead of selecting Plastic for developers, I'm choosing now Gluon mode. I'm going to join an existing project. It's the same one. It's called Boat Attack. It's the same one that I was doing before. You can see that I'm at Unity Games at the cloud. So I'm going to basically join this repository that is on the cloud. I could have repositories just living on my machine as well. So I'm going to select Boat Attack. I'm going to create my workspace there. You can change the location in this of where you want your workspace to be at. Remember, your workspace is the local working copy of your project, right? What you will be modifying, etc. In the context of Unity, this, of course, is the Unity project. So I create this Boat Attack workspace, and I click OK. Everything looks good. I apply. And then this is Plastic Gluon. As you can see, it is a simplified view of Plastic. We have the Explorer. We have incoming changes. Right now, we don't have any incoming changes. The change set window with some changes as well. And in the workspace, you can see that I have nothing right now. So I'm going to configure my workspace to pick up my entire Unity project. So I want to download everything. So you can see here that nothing is checked here. So I need to check those boxes to download, or so Plastic can download the entire project from the cloud. And we will see later how and why we want sometimes not to download everything. But in this case, we want to have the full Unity project, so I'm going to basically download everything. Again, it's a not huge project, but it's almost 1 gigabyte. And again, it took just a couple of minutes, which is extremely, extremely fast. You can see already that on the upper left corner, it says that there are new changes available. Almost there, and there we go. So you can see that now our workspace has the entire Unity project there. Gluon mode under the hood is basically doing the same things, just showing us simplified workflow, which I think is important to know. in your team, you can have people working on Gluon mode, and you can also have people working on plastic, on the regular mode, plastic for developers. So it's super flexible. Okay, now let's go to the asset store inside Unity, and I want to show you how to get the plastic plugin for Unity, and we will also see how to use it. So simply search for the plastic SCM plugin, download it, and import it into your project. You, of course, or well, not of course, but you will need to have the plastic client installed for this to work. The plugin requires the plastic client. So if I go now to window, this plastic SCM window over here, it's showing me the pending changes, incoming changes, the list of changes there, and we can start working there. Now, because I configured my client to be using Gluon mode, the plugin in the asset store is showing me Gluon. If I had my project or my repository configured in developer mode, it will be showing me other options over here. But yeah, that's the installation of the plastic plugin from the asset store. Now let's see how to check in things here. So I'm working here. Let's imagine I'm an artist. I'm working on the Unity project, and I want to change something on this background image that we're using on the main menu. So I'm going to basically modify the file externally. Maybe you're using Photoshop, maybe you're using any other tool. In this case, I'm just using Photos. I'm going to apply a simple filter. Maybe this one looks better. I'm going to save it. I'm gonna go back to Unity. You can see that there's one pending. Well, there are some changed items, but the texture changed. So I'm going to create a check-in message that I modify the background texture, and I'm going to check in the changes. I don't have to open the plastic client or anything at all. I'm going to launch Gluon. And if I go to my change sets, you can see here that the latest change set is already here. I modified my background texture, not texture. Perfect. Now imagine someone else made a change in the project, and now the plugin is showing me, oh, there's this thing modified. So I can div to the images. On the left, you can see what I have on my workspace, and on the right, what's incoming, what someone else modified. So in this case, they modified this image as well. You can see that we have multiple ways to see the differences. They look okay, so I simply update my workspace, and now I have those changes in my workspace. I launch Gluon again. Let's see our change sets. And you can see that they modified the instruction texture as well. And that's another change set that is already on my workspace. Great. So I was talking about the size of my project, right? In this case, it's almost 2 gigabytes. I'm going to configure it because I'm an artist and I just want to work with textures right now. I don't need the Unity project. I don't need other things. So I can simply say, I just care about textures, and not even all the textures. I just care about maybe these island textures. These are the ones that I'll be working with. So I select those. I am picking them up. I apply the changes. Now, if I go to Windows Explorer, you can see that my workspace only contains these textures, which is great for saving up space, especially in large projects where not everyone needs the entire set of assets or the entire set of files. At any point, you can, of course, go back and say, okay, I need more files and I don't need these anymore. So you can select which files to pick up. In the case of Unity, if you need to work on Unity at the same time, you need to pick up all the Unity files that are needed, which are basically the assets folder, the packages, and the project settings. Okay, now on to checkout. Let's say I'm also an artist. In this case, I'm a modeler, and I want to make sure that if I modify a 3D model, no one else modifies that, because maybe there will be some conflicts around the modification. So I want to make sure that I'm the only one that is modifying that file. So back in Plastic Gluon, we can go to my objects, to my boats, interceptor, and there's this interceptor FBX. I right click on that, and I can say log and checkout. I'm going to add a log rule. So you have multiple options. In this case, I just want to check out and log this asset in particular. Okay, I click OK, and now it says that it's checked out. No one else in my working on this repository will be able to modify it until I undo the checkout or I check in my changes. That in that case, the file is available for someone else to download. This is pretty useful for people working on assets that are not mergeable or are binary or something like that. So this is very useful. Perfect. So that was the overview of Plastic. I really encourage you to try it. If you have questions, please reach out. But also just start, download it. It's free. If you have the Unity account, just use your Unity account for registration. Go to the Plastic documentation if you want to learn more about advanced workflows, best practices, etc. And please, if you want, take a look at the Unity Plastic plugin, which is on the Asset Store. It's on beta, but it's already available. So thank you again. Please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. That's my handle. And I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something useful, and see you next time.